Okay, so tonight we're going to be in Mark 8, starting in verse 14, and it's the yeast of the Pharisees and Herod.
Herod who?
Herod, the King Herod.
The one with baby Jesus.
I think so. I'm not sure. We'll find out.
But the disciples had forgotten to bring any food. They had only one loaf of bread with them in the boat. As they were crossing the lake, Jesus warned them, "Watch out, beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Herod." At this, they began to argue with each other because they hadn't brought any bread. Jesus knew what they were saying, so he said, "Why are you arguing about having no bread? Don't you know or understand even yet? Are your hearts too hard to take it in? You have eyes, can't you see? You have ears, can't you hear? Don't you remember anything at all? When I fed the 5,000 with 5 loaves of bread and many baskets of leftovers did you pick up afterward?" 12, they said. "And when I fed the 4,000, 7 loaves, and how many large baskets leftovers did you pick up?" 7, they said. "Don't you understand yet?" he asked them.
Okay. So, in this story, who was in the story?
Jesus and his disciples.
Right. And how did it start out?
It started out they forgot to bring food.
Right. They forgot to bring food, and they were on the boat, right? They were on. Go ahead.
And they started arguing.
Right. Now, do you remember how much bread they had with them?
7 loaves.
Nope. Let's look.
They had 1.
Right. So if there were the disciples and Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many disciples?
12. 6
Okay.
plus 6.
And plus Jesus, right? So how many people in total? What's 12 plus 1?
13.
Right. So they had 1 loaf of bread to feed 13 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, how many people had they fed with 7 loaves of bread? Do you remember? They had 7 loaves of bread, and they fed how many people? Let's look.
They fed 5,000.
Let's see. So when they fed the 5,000, they did it with 5 loaves of bread, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when they fed the 4,000, they did it with 7 loaves.
Right.
So now they're worried about feeding 13 people with 1 loaf of bread, right?
Yeah, you just have to right.
No. Did they have to eat little small bites when Jesus fed the crowds?
Mm-mm.
No, because they had baskets and baskets of bread left over afterwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here the disciples are.
Mm-hmm.
They're with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
They know that he is able to provide. But do you think they forgot? Do you think maybe they forgot that Jesus was there to provide for them too?
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes we as Christians, we forget the promises of God. That God promises that we have no reason to be anxious. He says, don't be anxious about anything. Pray about everything. And that if we seek first the kingdom of God, all the things, all the needs will be provided for us. God tells us that we don't have to worry about what we're going to eat or what we're going to wear, because he's going to provide for us, right? You listening to me? Okay. So, the disciples had slipped into worrying about their physical needs, right? They had worried about they'd lost that trust that God was going to take care of them, right? Are you extra sleepy tonight or something? You're really not talking much. So it wasn't just that, but they started arguing with each other because they hadn't brought bread. Yeah. So do you think that that's good? That they started saying, well, you should have brought the bread. That's what they were probably doing, right? What do you think they were arguing about if they were arguing because they hadn't brought any bread? Do you think somebody was saying, for us to argue, don't we have to be sort of blaming somebody else or being in opposition to somebody and not being at peace? So it wasn't even that they weren't trusting in God. They had turned on each other, right? You listening to me? Okay. Do you think that any of those disciples, if they hadn't eaten for that one boat trip, would have starved to death and died?
No.
Okay, right? So, do you think if we were going to miss one meal on a trip, that it would be worth arguing with each other and blaming each other? No. What would be the better thing to do if there wasn't a lot of food and there were a bunch of people? What would be the kindest thing for us to do? Let's say...
give our food.
That's right. Like if we only had one cornbread muffin on our table, right? And it was me and you and Mommy, right? That's very good, right?
Okay.
And if it was me and you and Mommy, and we only had one cornbread muffin, and that's all that we were going to have for the whole day, do you think that it would be better for us to either find a way to share it, or for some of us to decide to eat a little bit less and be kind so that someone would have more?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that Jesus would make sure that that was enough to provide for us? Right? I mean, they had Jesus with them. He had just fed thousands of people, right? So then, what did Jesus ask him? He said, "Why are you
arguing?"
Right. And he asked them, why were their hearts so hard? Right? So he's asking them, it's all about what's going on inside their hearts. It's not even about the bread itself, right? What do you think it's about?
It's about giving food to other people.
Right. Right. You know that Herod and the Pharisees, they were all worried about what they could get for themselves. Right? What are we supposed to be about?
Sharing.
That's right. Sharing and loving and doing for others. Even if we have to do a little bit without. Right? Yep. So he told them, he said, don't you remember anything at all? I just fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread. And then how much bread was left over? How many baskets of bread was left over? 12. And they'd forgotten that. You know what I think the most important thing for us to remember is that God's always going to bless us. He's always going to take care of us. So why would we argue over or try and grab and hold things just for ourselves when we know that if we open our hands up and we make sure that others are taken care of,
Yeah, you have to hold it real tight and give it to others.
Right, we don't want to hold it tight just for ourselves, right?
Mm.
We want to open our hands and be willing to give to others. And then if we're taking care of others and giving to others, who's going to take care of us?
God.
That's right. That's right. So what do you think, because it says it's about the yeast of the Pharisees and Herod. That's what Jesus warns them about. He says, watch out. Beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and of Herod. What grew in the Pharisees' hearts?
Weeds.
Right, and
like when we talked in the planting seed.
Yep.
Where it had all that.
Right. And what is it when we want a lot of stuff for ourselves? Do you know?
Satan.
Well, it starts with a G-R. Greed. Greed. Right? And selfishness. Right? That's what was growing up in the lives of the Pharisees and Herod, because they were prideful. It was all about, for them, it was all about me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for us, it's supposed to be about God and about others. So that's why he was telling them. He's saying, watch out. Watch out. Because he didn't want sin to be crouching at the door and to steal their joy and steal their testimony. So, and steal their opportunity to trust in God and have faith. You ready to pray tonight?
I want to pray.
You want to pray? Go ahead.
Lord, we're thankful for that you gave us your word, the Bible, and we're thankful we can share it with other people in here.
Amen. You want me to pray too, or you think that's good?
Good.
That's good. We love y'all. I hope y'all have a blessed night and a blessed day tomorrow.